Hi guys, and welcome back to SwitchUp. A big congratulations to Glenn and his wife. They've just had their second kid, so he's going to be off for a while. Welcome to all the new subscribers. If you enjoy the content, then consider joining us. And a big thanks to our patrons as always. Today we're going to look at the strategy games on the Nintendo Switch that are available, and some quality picks if you're looking for something from that genre. So let's get into the list. First up then, a very nice little strategic game that I picked up in the recent sale, and that's Into the Breach from Subset Games. There are these gigantic creatures breeding underneath the earth and, well, you've got to destroy them. It's from the makers of Faster Than Light, which was a classic game back on PC. It's a really stripped down and quite charming little turn-based strategy game where you're defending against the Vec. It's condensed down to its purest form, and it's all about watching your opponent and trying to work out the exact strategy to counter what they're doing. A little bit like chess in some ways. You'll be finding new and powerful weapons and different pilots to, pilot your mechs as you desperately try and fight back. I'm not really sure why I waited so long on this one, but at around about £5 at the moment on sale, it was absolutely a no-brainer. Next up then, and I didn't really ever think I'd be using the words strategy and Mario in the same sentence, but again, another pickup for me in the recent sale was Mario & Rabbids Kingdom Battle, and my goodness, this game's incredible. Not only does it take the best aspects of a title like XCOM, but it also incorporates a quite nifty little cooperative mode. It's not the most challenging game I've ever played, but what a fantastic job Ubisoft have done in creating something fresh using Nintendo's iconic characters. It's no exaggeration to say the game's absolutely beautiful, it runs fantastically, and there's a little more depth here than you might be expecting. You use your in-game currency to purchase better weapons, which have a surprising amount of statistics to them, including the attack damage as well as the buffs that they do for your fellow comrades. If you slept on this one, well, if you're quick, you might be able to grab this one tonight, still on sale. Next up we have the cooperative strategy game Overcooked 2, or Overcooked 1 if you can find that for cheaper. They're essentially the same title. You might not think of these as strategy games, but believe you me, to get those 3 stars on each stage, you're going to need to work together. Don't worry if you're struggling to find a group of friends to play locally, this one's also online and there's usually quite a few people playing. As well as the core experience, there are a number of expansion packs available which can be had for a few pounds. But if you're into it, you can buy the season pass as well, guarantee an unlock of any future content. Next up, a much more traditional strategy experience that I'd be used to from back on the PC. It's Cities Skylines, which Glenn reviewed, and the review will be down in the description. This also comes with the After Dark and Snowfall expansions. You have to construct your own city from the ground up, and while that might sound easy enough, it really isn't. You'll have to balance the essentials like education, healthcare, as well as an ever-shifting economic situation. While the performance on this version at launch wasn't the best, they have tweaked it slightly. It's still not perfect, but in all honesty, a strategy game like this doesn't need to be running at 60 frames per second. They have included HD rumble, which is a nice touch, and the overall control of the game is quite simple. It's an incredibly deep game, and there's a lot here to sink your teeth into, and potentially hundreds and hundreds of hours of fun. They say the best things come in small packages. Well, That's what they say to me. Next up, we've got Wargroove, which comes in at under 400 megabytes, and it's a game we've recently mentioned, so I won't talk a great deal about it. Suffice to say, it's very familiar turn-based tactical combat, has a lot of strategy to it, but you're also rewarded with an interesting story to boot. There's 1 to 4 player local, as well as 1 to 4 player online. And if you really want to tax your brain, there's the ever-tricky puzzle mode, where you have to defeat the enemy in just 1 turn. In many ways a spiritual successor to games like Advanced Wars, this is deserved of a place in your collection.
Interesting.
You'll never see me coming!
Greetings.
I'm gonna break you!
Collection. Next up, we've got a hybrid so good I just had to include it. It's Slay the Spire, which sees an RPG come deck building game combined, and it's one of those titles that you have to play to really appreciate. The real strategy comes in the selection of the cards that you gradually discover throughout your gameplay, some of these working synergistically together and which are used to overcome the enemies you'll face. Now the spire changes every time you climb it, which can in some games feel frustrating and a little bit irritating, but here it feels like every new run up the spire is a new strategic challenge to overcome. There are also relics and other items to discover to help you out, but if you're into deck building strategies, this might be one to consider. Next we have the hugely underappreciated Armello from League of Geeks. This feels like a tabletop adventure game as you control one of the characters trying to overthrow the king. In the style of a board game, there is almost an isometric grid-based aspect, with the whole board being divided up into unique parts. There are a number of different things that you can do to usurp the king, including casting spells, defeating enemies in combat, as well as scheming with other players on the board. The game supports 2 to 4 players locally, which is very nice, with the option to upgrade to the complete version, which comes with all of the expanded content that was on the PC. So you've got the Bandit Clan, the Usurper's Hero Pack, the Rivals Hero Pack, as well as skins and some premium dice. While I enjoyed the game, I can imagine some people finding it a touch too slow, or dare I say it, strategic for their liking. But if you like what you see, you can usually find this on sale, so it's worth keeping your eye out for it.
Armello will always be mine.
Next up, we've got the ever-popular Sid Meier's Civilization 6. This came out a while ago, and it was lacking quite a few of the expansion packs that are on the PC version. Overall though, I felt that the performance was excellent for a small Nintendo Switch console, and while if you're going to go for a huge map with loads of players, you can expect a lot of slowdown eventually, overall the experience is solid enough. What the game didn't have at launch was hot seat multiplayer, allowing you to swap from one person to the next on the same console, but if it hasn't been added already, I'm pretty sure that's coming very soon. You'll have to let me know down in the comments. With that being said, they've also released the Rise and Fall and Gathering Storm expansions, which can be purchased separately. My review of the original launch will be down in the description, and to be honest, I think this is a great game. I really enjoy it. Next up then, I'm going to include the Reigns games. I really enjoy these. They're very cheap. You take on, well, let's go for the Game of Thrones one. You take on the role of one of your favourite characters and essentially are just given a series of choices and have to swipe right or left to decide your approach. Now, it sounds really simple and kind of boring, but they're very well written, the music's excellent, and it almost feels like a good supplement to the series. As you progress, you'll unlock different characters and then be able to flesh out the overall story a bit more for yourself. If you're a Game of Thrones fan, I think you might enjoy this, and it's very cheap. But if not, you've got the other standard Reigns title. Next up is a title that I've spent a bit more time with recently actually. After someone kind of brought it up in one of the videos, I thought alright, I'll go back to it. And it's the Tiny Metal series. These again are a touch like Advanced Wars in style, but this time you'll be taking your tanks and troops to battle the different enemies you encounter. There are 15 different units to use, and more depth than meets the eye with that style. You'll be taking control of Nathan Grease as he commands his units to victory against, and I quote, the villainous nation of Zipang, or Zipang, depends how you want to say it. While it's only a single player experience on one console, you can play online with another person. If I had to choose between this and Wargroove, I would probably choose Wargroove, but if you've already got that, this is a worthy pickup. Next up then we have Constructor Plus, which I had back on PlayStation way back in the day. I remember buying it because I thought, oh, this looks like Civilization, I can't wait. And then I hated it because it was just ridiculously difficult. And it was quite funny because Glenn reviewed this one for us and he found exactly the same. However, there is a point where you just get it and you know how to play the game and it becomes much more manageable. But it's not just a case of building and you're fine. There's this constant rivalry between you and someone else and they're trying to kind of take over your territory. And until you click with the game, it's going to feel like it's just an impossible task. But let me tell you, once you do, it's a great and very addictive title. There's tons to do here. You've got 65 pre-built towns, 17 worlds, and 15 different story modes. In addition to all of that, you can customize your own game world using the town designer, but this is one that you can only play alone. My personal favourite strategy type is the real-time strategies of old like Command & Conquer. Honestly, I'd quite happily take just a complete bog-standard re-release of the original Command & Conquer games with multiplayer added in. For the Nintendo Switch, I'd be set for life. I'll take Generals. I'll take Tiberian Sun. Just give me Command & Conquer. Ay caramba. Next up then, we've got Northgard, which is a little more like Settlers. The performance isn't amazing, there are a few little stutters and hiccups here and there, but again, the overall experience is still enjoyable. You build your settlement on a newly discovered continent called Northgard, and then you give your people different jobs like farmers and warriors and sailors. You know the drill. If you've ever played a Settlers game, well, you'll know what you're doing here. There are different victory conditions, which is always nice. You can do conquest, you can win by fame, law, trading. There are several different ones. And what's nice is that online you can play with up to 6 other people. Well, 5 other people to make a game of 6, but there's no local multiplayer here. It's a really enjoyable game overall. Check out Glenn's review. The link will be down in the description. Next up, back onto the board game style strategies, we've got World Conqueror X, which is another one I picked up on sale for about £3. The thing I like about this game is that as you battle it out across Europe throughout World War II, many of the battles have historical accuracy to them, and this makes for a much more interesting experience for me personally. You can choose from over 20 different countries in conquest mode and choose a starting point between 1939 or 1943. If you're a bit of a fan of history, or well, even if you don't have much of an interest, there's a lot to do here. There's different missions to go on, but just the sheer complexity of what was going on at the time is simplified down nicely to make it quite approachable. This is only a single player experience, but if you can find it on sale like it is right now for about £3, it's worth picking up. Next up, a more action-focused strategy title is X-Morph Defense. Again, review down in the description. This is a bit more like a tower defense in some ways. You can build your towers anywhere on the map, connect them up with laser defenses, and you'll also be manually fighting bosses. It's a very fun little game this, and again, 60% off at the moment, my goodness. There are a number of expansion packs available, all for around about £1 at the moment, or you can buy the complete edition if you want the whole lot. There is a demo of this one, so consider giving it a try if you like the look of it. Next up is the game Rebel Cops from THQ Nordic. Now, it's a spin-off of the game This Is the Police, which is another excellent strategy series worth checking out, but I want to talk about Rebel Cops today because it's much less known. Now, this is an 18-rated top-down tactical strategy game, which is also really cheap. It's only around about £8 brand new. You don't play as the police here, but rather almost like a A-Team style group trying to fight for justice. There's a heavy emphasis on stealth here as well, which I always enjoy, and you're given quite a few choices of how to tackle each situation. There are a number of different weapons to find, and the loadout of your character is all important to how you approach each level, and you gradually build up those characters. It's really an overlooked one, this. I bet most of you didn't even know this was on Switch. Well worth checking out. Next up then, we've got Battlestar Galactica Deadlock, based on the hugely popular TV series, which is awesome, it has to be said. You'll be commanding your own fleet here, battling against the Cylon, and there's a really cool mechanic whereby when you get an enemy kill or complete a battle, you can watch the whole thing back and it almost takes on like a film-like approach. It looks really cool. It's quite a deep title overall, and performance is decent enough on Switch. You'll also encounter many legendary names from the series, and you'll be trying to form alliances, unlocking new blueprints and weapons and ships, as well as recruiting new officers. There's pretty much everything here that I'll enjoy in a strategy game, and it's set in space. What more could I want?
Tell the Atlas carrier to intercept and start soaking up their fire. Burn the Tilium reserves if they have to. This Minotaur won't hold for much longer.
On it, Commander.
Divert course and focus on that frigate.
Another one that Glenn reviewed is The Mim's Beginning, which is a little bit like the game Black and White. It's a godlike strategy game that has quite a nice little humour to it as well. There's the usual array of creating buildings, planting vegetation, breeding animals, and taking care of your minions. But you've also got your divine psi powers that will help you reach victory in this slightly unusual but quirky enough little game. Only costs around £7 brand new. Check out the review, the links will be down in the description. Next up then we have Project High-Rise Architects Edition, and essentially you're doing exactly that. You're building a high-rise, but you get to control every single aspect. You can add restaurants as you build up your high-rise, You'll need power, there'll need to be people to clean all of that stuff, and it's one of those intricately detailed games, a bit like the old school ones we used to so enjoy. There's a campaign mode here with 29 scenario challenges, and if you prefer, you can just go into a sandbox and see how high you can build it up. Your high-rise will be visited by a number of tourists as well as business people, and you'll have to cater for all of these in your design. This one's been a bit pricier and it's quite difficult to find it on sale, but it might be worth adding to your wish list. Alright, so that's it for this list. There are at least 5 or 6 more I want to add to it, so, well, I'm going to have to do another one, aren't I? Let me know down in the comments if you didn't know about any of these, or if there are some of your favourites here. Also, add in any down below that we haven't got on this list, just to help people out if they're looking for a good strategy experience. A big thanks to all the patrons who support us each and every month. Remember, we give away a free game to the patron and the person most active on the channel. Congrats again to Glenn and Louise, and as always, for all things Switch all the time, keep it Switch up. Cheers, guys. See ya!